All right, so you're thinking about starting a religious institution in Ontario, like maybe a temple or a mosque or a church. Well, we're diving into this article called How to Register a Temple, Mosque, or Church in Ontario. And think of this deep dive as your guide to navigating the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a pretty important process. It's not just about paperwork.
Mm.
This is where you're actually laying down the legal groundwork for your whole vision.
Right, so first things first. The name, obviously it needs to reflect what your institution is all about, but it also has to be legally unique across all of Canada.
Exactly.
So how do you even figure that out?
Well, that's where this thing called an NUNS report comes in.
Okay, an NUNS report.
Yeah, have you heard of that before?
I have not.
So basically, it's a search that makes sure that no other organization in Canada is already using the same name, or even a really similar name.
So you don't want to accidentally step on anyone's toes.
Right,
Exactly.
exactly. And you know what's interesting about this report?
Wait.
It's only valid for 90 days.
Oh, really? Why such a short time frame?
Well, I think part of it is that names are constantly being registered, so they need to keep everything updated.
Makes sense.
But it also protects your chosen name for a set period while you're getting everything else in order.
Oh.
Imagine if you spent months coming up with like the perfect name and then
Yeah.
someone else snagged it while you were, off doing other paperwork.
Right. Yeah, that would be the worst.
So it's basically you can't really drag your feet on this whole process.
So you got to hit the ground running.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've got the name squared away.
Yeah.
What about location?
Right, so you're going to need a physical address in Ontario.
Okay, so what if you're just starting out and you don't actually have a dedicated building yet?
Well, the article actually mentions that there is some flexibility there. You can actually use a director's address, at least initially.
Okay, that's good to know.
But, this brings up another question, whether you should go for provincial or federal incorporation right away.
Oh, okay, so I thought those were just different levels of government. Does it actually change things if you choose one over the other?
Oh, it definitely does.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Ontario requires at least 3 directors for incorporation,
Okay.
but federally you only need 1.
Wow, that's a pretty big difference. I'm curious, what are the strategic implications of that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And it really depends on a lot of factors. You know, your institution's structure,
Mm.
maybe your long-term goals, even some tax considerations.
Okay, well, let's put a pin in that. We'll definitely have to come back to that.
Yeah, we should.
But first, let's talk more about these directors, because it sounds like they play a pretty important role.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're basically responsible for the legal and financial oversight of the whole institution. And they also have to sign all the incorporation documents. But thankfully, e-signatures are accepted these days.
Oh, good, because who even uses pen and paper anymore? So it sounds like finding the right people for these director positions is absolutely crucial. But even with a great leadership team, you still need to define what your institution is all about.
Right. You got it. And that's where these object clauses come in.
Okay, object clauses.
Yeah, so basically, these are statements that outline the core purpose of your institution, like its reason for existing.
Okay.
And what's interesting? Ontario actually provides pre-approved wording for common religious activities.
So I guess that's to ensure everyone is on the same page legally. You can't just say you're a religious institution and leave it at that.
Right. It's about having a clear legal framework.
Okay.
But here's the really cool part. You can actually customize those clauses to really reflect the unique mission and activities of your specific institution.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all approach. You can actually tailor it to your vision.
Exactly.
That's all.
Yeah, so you can really showcase what makes your institution special. Do you want to focus on youth outreach or interfaith dialogue or maybe community service? You could actually build all of that into your legal foundation from the very beginning.
So it's like setting the DNA of your institution right from the start.
Exactly.
That's really cool. But to unlock the full potential, and let's be real, the funding, you need to think about getting charitable status, right?
Absolutely. And that's where charitable clauses come in.
Okay, charitable clauses.
Yeah, these are the clauses that you use to demonstrate to the Canada Revenue Agency, the CRA, that your institution is actually operating in a way that benefits the public good.
So it's not enough to just say that you're doing good work. You actually have to spell out how you're contributing to the community.
You got it. Think of it like building a case.
Okay.
You're presenting evidence to the CRA to show them that you deserve those charitable benefits, like being able to issue official donation receipts and potentially qualifying for some tax exemptions.
Yeah. Okay, now that's starting to sound pretty appealing. beyond just the feel-good aspect. But I imagine the CRA scrutinizes these applications pretty closely.
Oh, yeah, they definitely do. There are very specific criteria that you need to meet,
Hmm.
and your charitable clauses need to be clear, concise, and convincing. It's not just about good intentions. It's about demonstrating a real commitment to charitable activities.
So strategically crafting those charitable clauses is absolutely crucial. It's like the key to unlocking all those benefits.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got our name, we've got our address, we've talked about directors, and now we've defined the purpose. What happens next in this registration adventure?
Right. So the article mentions that the standard incorporation process in Ontario takes about 7 business days.
Okay.
But there's a catch. Sometimes you need additional approvals, and that can cause some delays.
Okay, hold on. What kind of situations would require those extra approvals?
That's a great question. And it really depends on the specifics of your institution. Maybe the location needs significant renovations. Or maybe you want to offer specific services that require additional licensing.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a whole other layer of complexity there.
Yeah, there can be.
And how long are we talking about here in terms of delays?
That's something we'll definitely dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, cliffhanger. But before we get to that, I think we need to talk about the elephant in the room, fees.
Oh, yeah, right. So there are government fees associated with the whole incorporation process. And they can vary depending on whether you choose to go the provincial or federal route.
Okay, but I'm guessing that's just the tip of the iceberg. What other potential costs do we need to consider?
Well, you might need legal assistance to prepare all the documents,
Okay.
or you might run into expenses related to those additional approvals we mentioned earlier.
Right, right.
So yeah, it's not just about the upfront government fees.
So thorough financial planning is essential. You really need to go into this with a clear budget.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've navigated incorporation, we've paid all those fees. What's next?
Well, within the first 60 days, you need to file something called an initial notice. It's also known as Form 1.
Form 1.
Yeah, so basically, it's just a confirmation of all your key details. Addresses, directors, officer positions, all that stuff.
So it's like the final step in making it all official.
Well, not quite. Remember those charitable clauses we talked about?
Oh, right. Yeah.
If you want to get that charitable status, there's one more stage, the Canada Revenue Agency.
Okay, so this is where the CRA really gets into the nitty-gritty of your application.
Exactly. After incorporation, you submit your articles and an application to the CRA for review,
Okay.
and they assess whether your institution meets all the criteria for charitable status. And ultimately, they decide whether to give you that charitable tax number.
And that's the key to unlocking all those tax benefits and official donation receipts we talked about.
Exactly.
So I'm sensing a but coming.
Well, the CRA's review process can take some time. We're talking 6 to 8 months on average.
Okay, so patience is definitely a virtue in this process.
It is.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Name, address, directors, object clauses, charitable clauses, incorporation fees, the initial notice, and the CRA review process. That's a lot to digest.
It is. But, this deep dive is designed to break it all down into manageable steps. And we're not even done yet.
Oh, there's more.
In the next part, we'll dig deeper into those scenarios that can trigger additional approvals and delays, and we'll talk more about the strategic considerations behind choosing provincial versus federal incorporation.
Awesome. I'm already starting to see how all the pieces fit together. Stay tuned, everyone. We're just getting started.
Welcome back. So let's jump right back into those scenarios, the ones that can trigger extra approvals and delays during this whole registration process.
Okay, yeah, we left off talking about how sometimes, even after that initial 7 business days for incorporation, things can get held up.
Right, exactly. So imagine you found like the perfect spot for your institution, but the building needs some serious work to get it ready.
Okay, yeah. So we're talking renovations.
Yeah, like major renovations.
Which means building permits, zoning variances, maybe even accessibility modifications if the building isn't quite up to code.
Exactly. And, those permits, they come with their own whole set of regulations and inspections.
Fees.
Oh, yeah, of course, fees.
It's like a chain reaction. One decision can trigger a whole cascade of extra requirements.
It really is. And, all those requirements, they can add up to some serious delays.
Right, it's not just about waiting for paperwork.
No, it's about coordinating with different authorities and contractors, maybe even community stakeholders.
So if you're on a tight timeline, those delays could really throw a wrench in your plans.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's why it's so important to think about these possibilities right from the very beginning.
So build in some buffer time. Don't just assume everything's going to go perfectly smoothly.
Exactly. Hope for the best, but prepare for the unexpected.
Okay, so renovations are just one example. What are some other things that could trigger these extra approvals?
Well, let's say your institution wants to offer childcare services.
Okay, right. So now we're talking about licensing requirements, health and safety inspections, maybe even specialized staff training.
You got it. And all of those things can add more time and more expenses to the whole process.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that even if a service is really valuable and important to your mission, it can have a big impact on your timeline and your budget.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about potential delays. Now let's get back to that decision between provincial and federal incorporation. Because you mentioned earlier that there were some strategic implications there.
Right, I did. So remember how we talked about those director requirements? How Ontario needs 3 directors, but federally you only need 1.
Yeah, that definitely stuck with me. Why is there even a difference?
Well, federally incorporating, it could be a lot simpler in terms of governance, especially if you're just starting out small.
Okay, that makes sense.
But there's a trade-off. You also have stricter reporting requirements. So even if you're only operating in Ontario, you still have to file annual returns with the federal government.
So more paperwork.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. But are there any other advantages to going federal?
Well, one big advantage is name protection. So if you incorporate federally, your name is protected across all of Canada.
That's like nationwide coverage.
Exactly.
Okay, that's interesting.
So if you're thinking long-term, and you might want to expand beyond Ontario eventually, federal incorporation might be a good option.
Okay, so that's something to consider. But what about taxes?
Ah, yes, taxes. So federally incorporated nonprofits, they have access to certain tax benefits that you might not get if you're incorporated provincially.
Okay, so there's a financial incentive to think about as well.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing this is where things can get really complicated.
Oh, yeah, tax laws are definitely complex. And the specific benefits that you can get, they really depend on what your institution does and how it makes money.
So talking to a tax professional or a lawyer who specializes in nonprofits is probably a good idea.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They can help you navigate all those nuances and make sure you're making the best choice for your situation.
Okay, so we've talked about potential delays, and we've weighed the pros and cons of provincial versus federal incorporation. Now let's bring it back to that initial notice, that Form 1 that we need to file within 60 days.
Right.
What are some tips to make sure we don't miss that deadline?
Well, first of all,
Yeah.
treat that deadline like it's a sacred appointment. You know something you absolutely cannot miss.
Okay.
Mark it on your calendar, set reminders. Use whatever tools you need to stay on top of it.
Don't just assume you'll remember.
No, definitely not. Especially when you're juggling so many other things during this whole process.
Right, so much to keep track of.
And don't wait until the last minute to gather all the information you need.
Okay, start early,
Yeah, start early. Compile all those addresses and director details and everything well in advance.
be proactive.
Exactly. And, before you hit that submit button, double check everything. Make sure it's all accurate.
Right, because a little typo could turn into a big headache later on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so be organized,
Yeah.
be proactive, and be meticulous. Now, for those who are going for charitable status, what are some common pitfalls that can lead to delays or even rejections from the CRA?
Well, one of the biggest mistakes I see is a lack of clarity or specificity in the application. Remember those charitable clauses we talked about?
Yeah.
The CRA wants to see concrete evidence that your activities are actually charitable.
So it's not enough to just have good intentions.
No, you have to paint a clear picture of how you're making a difference in the community.
So the impact.
Exactly. Another common issue is incomplete documentation.
Okay.
The CRA wants to see detailed financial projections, your governance structures,
Yeah.
all your policies. They need to make sure you're accountable and transparent.
Right. Sounds like they're doing their due diligence.
Oh, yeah, they definitely are. But, it's in everyone's best interest. It ensures that donations are being used responsibly, and it protects the integrity of the whole charitable sector.
So don't cut corners.
No, be thorough, be transparent,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it.
Yeah, there's no shame in asking for clarification.
Exactly. The CRA actually has a ton of resources on their website. Guides, checklists, FAQs. It's all there.
Use those resources.
Definitely. And if you're still feeling overwhelmed, you can always talk to a lawyer or consultant who specializes in nonprofits.
Okay, so thorough documentation, clarity of purpose, and expert advice when needed.
You got it.
Now let's talk more about the benefits of charitable status. We already mentioned tax breaks and donation receipts, but are there any other perks that people might not be aware of?
Oh, there are definitely a few. For example, charitable organizations.
Yeah.
They often have access to grants and funding opportunities that are specifically for nonprofits.
Oh, wow. So that's a whole other avenue for financial support.
It is, and it can be a big help,
Hmm.
especially for new organizations that are just starting out.
So charitable status isn't just about saving money. It's also about opening up new doors for funding.
Exactly. And, beyond the financial benefits, there's also a big boost to your credibility and public image. Well, when you have that charitable status, it shows everyone that you've met these high standards for accountability and transparency.
So it's like a seal of approval.
It is.
And that builds trust and confidence with donors and partners in the community.
Exactly. It's a really valuable asset,
Yeah.
especially for a new institution that's trying to build a reputation.
Okay, so we've explored these scenarios that can trigger extra approvals and delays. We've talked about the strategic decisions of incorporating provincially or federally, and we've given some practical tips for staying organized and meeting those deadlines.
We have.
But we're not done yet. In the final part of our deep dive, we're going to bring all this information to life with some real-world examples and some actionable takeaways.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. We've talked a lot about the theory behind all this, but now it's time to get practical.
Yeah, let's see how this actually plays out in the real world.
So remember those object clauses we keep talking about? They're not just legal jargon,
Wow.
They're actually your chance to really define what makes your institution unique.
Exactly.
So for example, let's say a group wants to start a mosque, but they want it to be more than just a place of worship. They envision it as like a community hub, maybe offering social services or promoting interfaith dialogue.
Okay, yeah, that's a great example.
So how would their object clauses reflect that broader vision?
Well, they might include statements about providing support services to new immigrants or organizing interfaith events.
So it's about taking those aspirations and turning them into concrete actions. Actions that the CRA can actually see as charitable.
Exactly. And
Oh.
they can even get really specific. Like maybe they want to establish a community garden to promote sustainable living.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because that ties into environmental concerns,
Yeah.
which can also be considered charitable.
So you can really get creative with it.
You can, and you should.
It shows how those object clauses can go beyond just traditional religious activities.
It does.
And it highlights the strategic thinking involved. You're not just checking a box. You're setting the stage for future funding and partnerships.
Right.
Speaking of strategic thinking, let's talk about those extra costs that can pop up. We talked about renovations requiring permits and all that. But what if you want to offer childcare services?
Oh, yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah.
Because that brings in a whole other set of regulations.
Right.
You'll probably need a childcare license,
Okay.
which means meeting certain staff and safety requirements.
So it's not as simple as just finding a room and hiring some volunteers.
Definitely not.
There's a real financial commitment involved.
There is.
You'll have licensing fees, training costs, background checks for staff, and then the ongoing costs of maintaining those standards.
It all adds up.
So it's a good reminder that even the most well-intentioned services can have a significant financial impact.
They can.
All right, let's shift gears to that initial notice.
Form 1.
Form 1, right? It sounds pretty straightforward, but missing that 60-day deadline can have serious consequences.
Oh, it definitely can.
So what's your advice?
My advice is to treat that deadline like a court date. You absolutely cannot miss it.
Okay.
So mark it on every calendar you own.
Set reminders.
Use project management tools if you have to,
Whatever works.
whatever it takes.
Don't just assume you'll remember,
No, because chances are you won't.
especially with everything else going on.
And start gathering the information you need right away. Don't wait till the last minute.
So addresses director details all that stuff.
All of it.
Be proactive
Exactly.
and double check everything before you submit it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One little mistake can cause major delays and frustration.
Okay, so be organized,
Yeah.
be proactive, and be meticulous.
You got it.
Now, for those who are going for charitable status, what's the most important thing to keep in mind?
Documentation.
Documentation.
Meticulous documentation.
Okay.
The CRA wants to see a clear and compelling case for why your institution deserves that charitable status.
So how do you make that case?
You need to articulate your charitable purposes clearly. Provide detailed financial projections.
Okay.
And show that you have a strong governance structure in place.
So it's not just about saying that you have good intentions.
No, you have to back it up with evidence.
Show them the receipts.
Exactly.
Now, I know the CRA has a lot of resources on their website.
They do.
Guides, checklists, FAQs.
All kinds of stuff.
Should people be using those?
Absolutely use those resources.
It's better to get your questions answered up front
than to run into delays later.
And if you're still feeling lost, you can always talk to a consultant who specializes in nonprofits.
Oh yeah, for sure. They could be a huge help.
Okay, so thorough documentation, clarity of purpose, and expert advice when needed.
That's it.
Now, we've talked about the challenges and the requirements, but let's not forget about the benefits of getting charitable status.
Right.
We already mentioned tax breaks and donation receipts, but there's more to it than that, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, charitable organizations often qualify for grants and funding opportunities that other groups don't.
So charitable status isn't just about saving money. It's also about opening up new doors for funding.
Exactly. It can be a game changer,
Yeah.
especially when you're just starting out.
And what about the impact on your reputation?
Well, when you have that charitable status,
Mm-hmm.
it shows everyone that you've met these high standards for accountability and transparency.
So it's like a seal of approval.
It is.
And that builds trust and confidence with everyone.
Exactly. It's a huge asset, especially when you're trying to establish yourself in the community.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about the steps, the challenges, the strategic decisions, and the rewards.
We have.
What's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest thing is, even though registering a religious institution might seem daunting,
Yeah.
it's totally doable.
You can do it.
Break it down into steps.
Hmm.
Seek guidance when you need it. And stay focused on your vision.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
And remember, it's about more than just paperwork. It's about creating something meaningful, a space for your community to connect and grow.
That's what it's all about.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into registering religious institutions in Ontario. We hope you found it informative and empowering.
We did too.
We'll see you next time.